I don't remember what the first video game I ever played was. It was probably something dreadful on the Atari, truth be told. But I do remember the first video game that hooked me, that made me sit up and take notice. It was Super Mario Bros. 3 for the NES. And while it wasn't the first Mario game I had played, nor would it be the last, it was the first one that opened my eyes to that feeling, that obsession with a video game. I had dreams about Mario 3. I wrote stories about Mario 3. I had the Nintendo Power Mario 3 strategy guide and would read and reread it, studying the maps and memorizing the secrets. My fifth grade teacher gave our class an assignment to give a speech on how to do something. I chose how to beat Bowser in Super Mario 3 as my topic. You get the idea. Super Mario Bros. 3 turned me into a little video game junkie, jonesing for the next time I could turn on the NES and blaze through those early levels, grabbing warp whistles and P-Wings. But this video isn't about Super Mario Bros. 3. It's not about any specific Mario game. No, this video is about Mario the symbol. This video is about what Mario means to me. And we start in... My early gaming was done on Nintendo systems. The NES, the SNES, the N64. And something that's hard to remember in today's environment, even for someone who lived through the NES era, is how little information we got on any particular video game. I mean, pick the worst game you own, the most broken piece of trash game, and I guarantee someone has made a tutorial video or strategy guide somewhere on the internet. Someone has done a review that's available at your fingertips. That just wasn't the case for my childhood. We didn't have a constant drip of information on upcoming games, and we didn't have nearly as many games to choose from. Now, I know I sound like a grumpy old man yelling at a cloud, but I'm going somewhere with this. See, if you're a young kid in the NES and SNES era, like I was, and you didn't have a lot of reviews to inform your purchase decisions, and you also didn't have any disposable income to risk on video games that you weren't sure you'd even like, when the opportunity arose to purchase a new video game, you had to resort to other methods of making your decision. Enter Mario. Mario, for me, was a symbol of reassurance in those early years. Did a game have Mario in it? Then it was, more likely than not, a good game. This principle led me to games like Mario Kart, where I spent hours in battle mode with my little brother, into games like Mario Paint, where I spent hours meticulously recomposing my favorite songs with cat meows. Mario meant safety. It meant that I didn't have to worry if I had picked up a horrible game. Did I feel any connection to the plump plumber? Not particularly. He was never my choice in Super Mario Bros. 2, Mario Kart, or Mario Tennis. But he was always there, a reassuring presence, a reminder that I was in good hands, that I was in a familiar universe. And I did feel a connection to that universe. As the roster of Mario's friends, enemies, and fellow go-kart racers grew over the years, I began to enjoy them on their own merits, to like the simplicity of these broad archetypes and uncomplicated characters. With Mario as the stand-in, the default, the baseline, it was fun to explore all these other strange options. But let's talk more about Super Mario Bros. 3, a game that to this day sits in my top 3 favorite games of all time. Mario 3 took the Super Mario Bros. Formula and improved it in every way. The worlds were varied and expansive, platforming was tight and challenging, but also fun. The overworld map was a fun addition. The expanded cast of enemies, including boss enemies, made the worlds feel more alive, and, most importantly from my perspective, the game was chock full of secrets and surprises. I mean, anyone from that era who's played this game knows about the warp whistles, but those are major secrets. 1-3, which also contains a warp whistle, contains another entire secret area. You could play through this level dozens of times and not find this pink music block if you didn't know it was there. And then that secret area contains another secret. Mario 3 was pulling stunts like that all the time. Getting to World 5 and seeing how small the map was, but also seeing that strange tower off to the side that was unlike any building so far in the game, and then seeing that the second half of the level was in the clouds just blew my young little mind. The game was mostly linear, but also sort of not, with some world maps having alternate routes and many levels having multiple ways to clear them. All this culminated in the intense challenge of World 8, where all the tricks and skills you had learned throughout the course of the game were put to the test. I'd stockpile items like P-Wings and Clouds, saving them for specific levels in World 8 that I knew were especially challenging. And then, the final fight with Bowser, who inverted the strategy of all the earlier fights. Rather than jumping on him, you had to trick him into almost jumping on you, until his jumps finally caused him to break through the level's floor. My parents, recognizing how much their dorky, gangly son loved this game about the strange Italian plumber, deduced that I would probably enjoy another game in that series, Super Mario World, and they were right. Super Mario World is Mario 3, only more so. There are many, many good things to say about Mario World, and I recognize all of them. But I can also say that I don't love Super Mario World in the same way that I love Mario 3. It somehow lacks some of the charm inherent in the older title. Again, that's not a knock against the game, it's great. The new power-ups are fun, even if I deeply miss the raccoon tail. The alternate paths through certain levels could open up entirely new areas in Super Mario World, and adding Yoshi into the mix made the gameplay fresh. But, like I said, it was Mario 3 with less charm. It didn't have the same impact on me as Mario 3, didn't occupy my brain space in the same way. And while I did play several of Mario's Game Boy offerings, 6 Golden Coins was fun but forgettable, and Dr. Mario was inferior to Tetris. None of them held a candle to Mario 3. No, the next game that would grab me like Mario 3 did was Mario's first foray into 3D space. And what a game that was. Mario 64 may feel dated by today's standards, especially in regard to the camera, but at the time it was a revelation in game design. The move from 2D to 3D gave Nintendo the freedom to turn individual levels into sandboxes, to take that alternate routes through levels concept from earlier Mario games and turn it into this sprawling level design. While I will always admire 2D Mario games for their precise, meticulous platforming layouts, I admire 3D Mario games for their inventiveness, for their creativity, for their constant innovation, and for the way they encourage the player to explore. And there was so much to explore and discover in Mario 64. We all remember this guy, right? And the ghosts showing up in the castle hallway, leading to the discovery of the haunted house level, which contains this iconic friend. Mario 64 contained so much that was fresh, but it also contained so many homages to other Mario games, like Rainbow Road from Mario Kart, or Tiny Huge Land from Mario 3, or Yoshi hiding away on the roof of the castle. My favorite memories of Mario 64 involve me and my family sitting around the TV trying to work out this game's secrets. Each level, when you enter it, gives you a brief description of where to find one of 6 stars hidden in the level. Oftentimes those hints are pretty vague. Sometimes they'd be impossible without other secrets in the game being unlocked first. We spent a lot of time together as a family, guiding Mario through his adventure, my dad controlling Mario through the hard parts. My brother and I continued even after Bowser was defeated, trying to find every last star in the game. For months we did this, working together on a single save file, trying to get that number to go up to 120. And then we did it. Though I can't remember what star was the last one, I can still remember that sense of satisfaction of finding it. And I can remember it slowly give way to a feeling of emptiness, that the journey was over, that Mario 64 had run its course, had given me everything it had to give, had shown me all that there was to be shown. This was a feeling that I would come to recognize over the years, a feeling that I'm sure many of you recognize. The journey's over, we won, I should feel victorious, but what do I do next? That would be the last time a Mario game made me feel that way, because next came. Times change. To a teenager, the slick graphics of Tekken on PS1 looked far superior to the Nintendo 64's chunky polygons. The 64 would be the last Nintendo home console I would own for a very, very long time. My tastes changed along with the times too. Maybe that bittersweet feeling after 100% completing Mario 64 made me want longer games, or even games that couldn't be completed. Whatever the reason, I began a dual path of online multiplayer games and JRPGs. I poured hours into Halo, BlazBlue, and Civilization, and an equal or greater number of hours into Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, and Persona. Eventually, like practically every other human being on the planet, I bought a Nintendo DS, but the only Mario game I bought for it was Mario Kart, and I was quickly put off the game's online offerings by all the accursedly fast players, usually with names comprised entirely of Japanese characters who had mastered every optimal route through every course. Playing Mario Kart by myself on a tiny screen was a lonely experience, though. The world was different now. My brother was too busy, and I began to wonder just what I ever saw in all those Mario games anyway. I enjoyed plenty of other games on the DS. It was such a fantastic little system. I just considered myself above games like Mario now. Those were fine when I was a kid, I reasoned, but now, with my refined tastes, there were so many better things for me to play. Years passed this way. Years filled with big AAA titles on Xbox and PlayStation. Years filled with sprawling open-world games. But big AAA titles turned into yearly derivative sequels, and sprawling open-world games turned into bloated, cookie-cutter, lifeless worlds. None of that sounds fun to delve into in a video that's already going to be long, so let's skip ahead to If you've made it this far in the video, then you can see one of the major mistakes I made during the Lost years. Mario is not for kids. Mario is for everyone. But I will admit that it took kids to make me realize that fact. As my children grew older, I realized that they weren't having the same enthralling experience with video game worlds that I had as a child. I'm embarrassed to admit how long it took me to realize that it was because I was buying the wrong games. And I was buying the wrong games largely because I owned the wrong consoles. So I bought the kids a Nintendo Switch for Christmas in 2021. It was the first Nintendo home console that I had owned since the Nintendo 64. It's also now my favorite console ever, but I bought it initially for my kids. And so, of course, I bought Mario games. Mario Kart, Super Smash Bros., and Super Mario Odyssey. If you've played Mario Odyssey, you know where this is going. That game is impossible to resist, especially for anyone who grew up playing Mario. So much of that game is a love letter to earlier titles, and it was with Mario Odyssey that I rediscovered what made Mario special. Only now, I was sharing it with my kids. I was the one controlling Mario through tough sections. I was the one watching my kids become enthralled with the plumber's adventures. When my 8-year-old asked for a Cappy shirt for Christmas, I honestly felt really good. I felt like I had passed on the simple joys of my childhood. And that, at its heart, is what Mario is. Simple joys. There are challenges and obstacles, but there's sheer delight stuffed in every corner of games like Mario Odyssey. Here is a game, then, that you can play with your kids. Here's a game that brings you together. Here's a game that will be easy enough for them to play through, grabbing the easy-to-find moons, but challenging enough to intrigue you, to make you hunt out those tougher moons on your own, even after the kids have gone to bed. As I mentioned earlier in this video, the world is different now than it was back in the NES era. We are spoiled for choice. Will we sit around the TV as a family collecting every moon in Odyssey? No. We beat Bowser, played a bunch of Luigi's Balloon World, and moved on to other things. But will we be there day one for the next mainline Mario game? You bet we will. Because what Mario does, he does well. Simple joys expressed in worlds brimming with creativity.